how might the battleground shape up in a snap general election? Here's the state of the opinion polls. The Tories have opened up a roughly 8 to 10 percentage point lead over Labour since Boris Johnson became Prime Minister in July.
At the moment, given that the polls put the Conservatives 8 points ahead of Labour, but they also put the Liberal Democrats much stronger than they were 2 years ago, and also the SNP doing well. In truth, when you look at the numbers, it looks as though there's perhaps a 50% chance that the Conservatives would get an overall majority of at least one on the current numbers, but equally a 50% chance that they might actually fail to do so. So holding an early election is certainly not an unrisky project so far as Boris Johnson is concerned.
Well, good morning, everybody.
The Tory strategy is to unite the National Leave vote, and there's been some success. Support for the Brexit Party has fallen by around 6 percentage points, from 19% to 13% over the summer, and most of that support has gone to the Conservatives. But what if the election comes before October the 31st and the Brexit Party does not stand aside for the Tories or remains a force?
Given that the Brexit Party is getting votes almost entirely amongst Leavers and the Conservative Party is virtually wholly dependent for increasing its support amongst Leave voters, any rise in support for the Brexit Party is potentially risky for Boris Johnson.
But polling suggests UK Remain supporters nationally outnumber Leave supporters. Could the pro-Remain parties not capitalise on this strength in numbers by uniting to fight the next election? There's some precedent for that from the recent Brecon by-election, when both Plaid Cymru and the Greens stood down in favour of the Liberal Democrat candidate. But anti-Brexit tactical voting would only do serious damage to the Conservatives if it happened on a large scale.
If indeed some Liberal Democrat voters switch to the Labour Party in seats which are marginal between Conservative and Labour, there's potentially enough movement there to cost the Conservatives around 20 seats or so, and equally if Labour voters reciprocate in Labour in seats where the Democrats are challenging, half a dozen, maybe 10 seats also potentially costing the Conservatives. So certainly we should bear in mind that even if the Remain vote remains divided nationally, if it were to coalesce locally to some degree behind whichever party is best able to defeat the Conservatives, then that could make life more difficult for Boris Johnson.
Just 2 years after the last election, the picture of the UK electoral battlefield has a host of moving parts. New political divides laid over old tribal loyalties, a first-past-the-post voting system interacting with insurgent parties. In short, lots of reasons for uncertainty for all the parties.